I want to see Cody Homelander.
Yeah, but he could turn on Roman. He can turn on Roman because he's such a face. Roman is the man right now.
Acknowledge me.
Hello and welcome back to Bitchin' About Wrestling, where the wise men talk everything WWE. Joining me on today's episode, my right-hand man for this show, we have Neil, the original tribal boss. How you doing, Chief?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very well. Thank you. Very well. Excited to be back again talking WWE. If you don't know, Bitchin' About Wrestling is we do talk everything WWE, and we have a weekly episode which we drop every Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, depending how quickly I can edit it and how quickly I can get it published. But we're there or thereabouts, and we cover everything from SmackDown and Raw each week. We talk about our storylines, we talk about the characters, we talk about the matches, and everything in between. We'd really appreciate if you just take a moment to hit that like and subscribe if you're watching us on YouTube, and if you're listening to this audio podcast on Apple or Spotify, just hit that follow or subscribe. We'd really appreciate it. And if you didn't know, you can actually access Apple Podcasts from a web browser now. So they just launched this in the last week. So yeah, you don't have to have an Apple device, but if you want to use a platform on any PC browser, you can access Apple Podcasts. So there's no excuses not to be listening to Bitchin' About Wrestling. Right, let's head straight on to SmackDown this week, Neil. The show opened with a celebration. This segment kind of took me back a little bit. It's a little bit old school WWE. We had Tiffany Stratton and Pretty Deadly out. They put a celebration on to recognize the brand new women's champion Nia Jax, who obviously beat Bayley at SummerSlam. Nia was brought out on this giant throne with a big like Sauron crown on her head. It was a really great visual. She looked fantastic. I thought that was really, really brilliant for her and her character. But we started seeing some cracks in the relationship. Nia was saying the party was far too pink, and she said that all women in the WWE now need to bow to her, including Tiffany. But Tiffany did a little deflection, and Elton Prince and Kit Walker started to sing Nia's song from Pretty Deadly, the musical, but they were interrupted by Michin, who came down and beat everyone down with a kendo stick. So Neil, what do you think of the opening segment?
You know what it is? I liked it, but I think where it kind of went off the rails for me, where did Pretty Deadly come from?
Oh, well, why are they involved?
Yeah, like I mean, logically it makes sense because they like Pretty Deadly. If you had to find like two stooges who could basically just fit in with this ceremony, Pretty Deadly perfectly worked for it.
Yes,
but it's just sort of like you just plucked. It feels like WWE just plucked them out of a hat. I've never seen any backstage segments where Tiffany and Nia are talking and then Pretty Deadly are there, and it's just like, oh, okay, you've established some level of connection.
But I didn't mind the singing. Wrestling is supposed to be fun, and it's like,
it was fun. Not? It's just it was fun. It was just like
bit random. Okay. Yeah. What do you think about Michin? Do you see her as a credible force, or is she just a filler?
Unfortunately, see, I like Meechum. I like her from being Mia Yim to Meechum to whatever. I just think she's just filler.
Yeah.
She's the safe opponent to get, for Nia to have a title defense.
Okay, so then we move on to Carmelo Hayes versus Andrade. What a match. I thought this was going to be match of the night when I watched it, but then another match towards the end of the show came very, very close, and there's a toss-up between the two. But these two working together is so well. And you know what? For me, they are storytelling in the ring. Hayes is wrestling different to he did in the first couple of matches. They keep talking about how he's learning from his mistakes. But, it was set up that obviously after losing to Andrade sort of like 2 matches in a row, Hayes was got revenge last week by costing him a chance to be the number 1 contender for the US Championship. So it's going into that third match, and Carmelo Hayes finally picked up a win with a quick quick pin on Andrade. It was the right thing to do, absolutely, for this rivalry. And it didn't overshadow Andrade at all. It didn't make him look weak. It was a roll up. And that's kind of what fed into the end of the match then, right? Because Melo, he just was gloating. He's like, I got one up on you. Andrade's trying to walk out. Yeah, trying to walk out saying, all right. But he just pushed him a little too far. And it went down to the fisticuffs between the two, started wailing on each other, which obviously resulted in the referees and production team coming down to break up the fight. But I thought this was a really good match, a really good segment. I really like this feud. And we've mentioned a couple of times on this podcast over the last few weeks, we want more feuds that don't involve titles. You know, you mentioned it last week about having like the number 2 position is so important.
Yeah.
And so, you know, Santos is in that position at the moment, but when he overcomes that, you need that next person there ready to challenge. And these two and the way they're building is fantastic. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, I love it. I know you said that there's that other match, and I understand that other match being a toss-up. But for me, I was like, this is my match for the night.
This is your match, yeah.
This was it. And I'm like, watching it, I'm just like, I can watch these two go at it for months.
Yeah, I mean, that was a pay-per-view. That was a PLE match. The quality of the match. You know, it was like, absolutely fantastic.
It's weird because on one hand, I'm like, that's the kind of match you want to see for a title. You want to see that match. Like if it was anyone else but LA Knight as the US champion, that would be a US champion title match.
Yeah.
But
I think down the line we will see those two in that situation with a title.
Yeah, definitely. But I like the fact that it wasn't a title match. What that match reminds me of, like none of the spots, none of the what took place in the match, but that match reminds me of WrestleMania 17, Chris Benoit versus Kurt Angle, when it was like you had all of these high stake matches, you had the TLC 2, you had you had all of this stuff happening, but then you just had these two absolute units of wrestlers in a match and just going at it. And I was just like, that's you need that. You need that. And it's like you need it to happen every other month. Just have here's the big storyline. You love this storyline. But by the way, one of the W's does stand for wrestling. Here you go.
Yeah, and that's it. It's just two guys having a rivalry to be better than each other. And that's it. It's pure and simple. And you don't need any more than that. So props to Hayes and Andrade.
Yeah. One thing, it's gonna sound weird, but one thing it reminds me of, especially now that Carmelo is he's got one.
Yeah, 2-1.
Is I can imagine it being a best of 7 series.
Yes.
And the thing is, the last time I remember there being a best of 7 series, it led to one of my ultimate favorite tag teams of all time, The Bar, when it was Sheamus and Cesaro going at it, and they went at it for 7 matches, and at the end of it, they became a tag team. One of the best tag teams ever.
Oh, they were phenomenal. That's a really good shout. It could go that way. I like that. I do like that. That's cool. And, you know, it's one of those that they could play into it where they become that tag team. Maybe they win gold. They lose it. They go back to being rivals and they fight for that individual championship again later down the line, like a year from now. So, yeah, that could be some long-term storytelling. I like that a lot. Right. Next up, we had a backstage segment with Solo Sikoa. He was talking with Tamatonga that, you know, if Reigns does take back the Ulafala, that he will be the tribal chief again, and they both must acknowledge him, but it was never going to happen. And I thought that was a really interesting take in the storyline. It was a real recognition that, you know, this is what's at stake. You know, this is the symbol of who's in charge. So that was a nice segment. Then we had Naomi versus Blair Davenport. I can't say I care for this feud. Blair Davenport, she connected with an earth-shattering need to pick up the victory of Naomi. It kind of is what it is. Any thoughts on that match?
I'm disappointed because Blair Davenport and Lyra Valkyria are like, to me, they're on like equal footing and especially because one's on Raw, one's on SmackDown, and they both should be getting pushed in the same light, but it just doesn't feel as effective with Blair Davenport as it does with Lyra Valkyria. Like Lyra, we look at her and it's like, okay, you were in the Queen of the Ring tournament and you got far. You know, I think was she the finalist against Nia?
Yeah, I think she was actually.
Yeah, so then she got to the finals of Queen of the Ring, and it should feel that way for Blair Davenport because she's in the feud with Naomi. You know, she's helping Dawn and Fire. You know, it's you should be in the mix, and it just doesn't feel important.
No, it doesn't. But at least you got some crowd reaction this week, because I felt the last few weeks she wasn't getting any reaction. But they really leaned into her heel work with this one, so at least she's getting some kind of reaction now. But
that's it. A slow reaction is sometimes a really good thing, because it
can be.
You get people behind you, and then those people who get behind you stay behind you, because if it's just really quick, like, oh my gosh, ooh, you're here, yay, then it's like they if they enter quick, they leave quick.
Yeah, you can get bored real quick. Yeah. We had a really nice package. Rest in peace, Alpha. WWE did a great tribute video to him before the sort of like main event of the evening. And it was a really nice video. And I don't think I appreciated enough of the Wild Samoans up until the passing of, well, both of them now in the last 6 months. So Alpha and Seeker. And but I guess I just also didn't realize how much he actually did outside of the ring in terms of all the scholarships and stuff like that. So it's really nice to see that WWE put a great package together. We had Kevin Owens versus Grayson Waller. So this started with a backstage build-up. Waller was upset that Theory had got him his match. But, you know, Austin tried to hype him up, talk him around. This is going to be a great opportunity for you. So, you know, Waller started running his mouth a little bit about KO and his win-loss record, and it might be an easy dub. And obviously Kevin Owens approached from behind. But he leaned into it. Self-deprecation. He was like, yep, you're absolutely right. My win-loss record's been crap. You know, yeah, come on. Beat me. It'll be fine. You know what I mean? It's just like, take me out. Yeah, let's go to the ring. Let's go. Let's go now. And it wasn't exactly a squash match, but Kevin Owens came across strong in this match. You know, he was really, really good. And he finished it with a stunner pop-up powerbomb combo right at the end, and, you know, left standing tall. But Waller and Theory, they attempted a 2-on-1 like chair attack after the bell, but the undisputed WWE champion Cody Rhodes emerged to stop the assault, much like KO did for him last week, and they sent A-Town down under running. And we had an acknowledgement there between Kevin Owens and Cody, and you know, he picked up the belt and like, oh, are we going to get a little heel, Owens? Are we going to get a little heel? But no. Mutual respect. Here's a title. Going to see you at the bash. So your thoughts on that segment, mate, and the match?
You know what it is? It's weird. I didn't like the match as much as I probably should have. But even though I say that, I think it's one of the most terrible things in present day WWE is how easy it is to forget how good Kevin Owens is.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? It's so easy to forget how good he is. And I think the thing that made me not enjoy the match as much is the stunner pop-up powerbomb combo.
Oh, really? Okay. How so?
Because to me, I'm like, the stunner should be enough.
Yeah, I can agree. I can see that. Yeah. I was surprised he didn't go for the pin. I do admit the pop-up powerbomb was a surprise to follow that up.
Yeah. You're like, that's overkill. You know, you think of it like, you hit him with two moves that have literally, both moves have won the most important championship in WWE. Right?
Yeah.
And like, whether it was for him or for Austin or for someone else, right? A powerbomb and a stunner have won more championships than arguably any other set of moves, right?
Yeah, no,
and you used both of them.
Both on Waller. Yeah.
on Waller. You didn't use it on The Undertaker. You didn't use it on The Rock. You
didn't do it in a championship match. You use it on Waller on SmackDown. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, if he was going to go for the combo, I would like to see it happen where he goes for the stunner. And you know when they pop back up and then they're just standing but dazed?
Yeah.
And then he just pushes them into the ropes and then whips them up and puts them down. But yeah, for him to be down on the ground, pick them up and then throw them into the ropes, yeah, it's not needed. It's a good point. It was a bit much. But are you excited for Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens?
Not as much as I should be, because
we know Kevin Owens is not going to win.
Well, it's not even just I know Kevin Owens isn't going to win. It's the most interesting thing that can come from this match is Cody Rhodes going heel. And if he doesn't turn heel, outside of Kevin Owens winning, the match will somewhat be a disappointment, even though it's Cody Rhodes and even though it's Kevin Owens, and even though both of them on their best day can pull off magic. It's just there's no real heavy rivalry there. It's two faces who both have a mutual respect for one another, but both have issues with other people who, for argument's sake, aren't going to interrupt that match.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like...
Yeah, I see where you're going with that. I mean, personally, what I would do is I would have Kevin Owens coming so close that it actually ends up turning him heel at this point. Because what I would potentially have is Kevin Owens going heel in a sense of that now he realizes how hungry he is for that title. So like it maybe hasn't been as important for him recently, but now he really wants it and he's going to go on a bit of a rampage. I think potentially after we have Randy Orton versus Gunther, I'd then turn Randy Orton heel as well and leave Cody Rhodes by himself. Because at the moment he's got his back up all the time. And then maybe that's when he aligns himself more with Roman Reigns and maybe he's part of that Bloodline match or something like that. So I would move Kevin Owens and Randy Orton away to build that relationship with Roman, because Roman won't be interested if those two are around, in my opinion. Yeah. So that's kind of how I'd play it out.
I see. Now my issues with that are whether it was scripted or it was just, you know, Randy doing his thing. Randy's been eyeing that championship for a good 2 months now. You know, you see
they've referenced it in the interview. So they had an interview with Cody Rhodes, you know, on his bus. I think he does like a podcast. And he said, and that when at WrestleMania, when you're looking up with me and I've got a picture of it on my wall, and they referenced that, he's like, he wasn't looking at you, bro. He was looking at the championship. And that's how I play into it, because they've done this whole thing about how much they respect each other. There's a lot of love there. He wouldn't be where he was for Randy. It's like it's setting up beautifully for a turn.
It is, but I just think you remember, as I've said it before, I want to see Cody Homelander.
Yeah, but he could turn on Roman. He can turn on Roman because he's such a face. Roman is the man right now, and he's like they align each other. Then suddenly it's like the superhero turns on him, and it's like, to me that sets it up. Because
do you know what it is? It's because right now I feel like Roman is still untouchable. Obviously, we have not spoken about the end of SmackDown just yet.
Yes.
We will, but Roman is basically untouchable. He's the guy, period. Right? He is he's the biggest face in the entire wrestling industry, whether it's AEW, WWE, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Ring of Honor, TNA, doesn't matter where you're talking, Roman Reigns is the number one face in all of wrestling. But because he has that history with Cody, you know, they've done WrestleMania twice. It's sort of like expected in my eyes that Cody turns on Roman. But Cody turning on one of the two people, or both of the people who absolutely had his back no matter what, right? Cody Rhodes is the man who made Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn bury the hatchet and become undisputed tag team champions. Cody Rhodes is the man who got when Randy Orton was coming back, he came back in that the War Games match because of Cody Rhodes. It's him turning on one or both of those two. That is Cody Homelander. That is you've gone off the deep end, because you're turning on the people who were literally there for you through thick and thin. And it wasn't like, okay, Jey Uso was aligned with Cody. They were tag team champions together. But it was a thing of Jey was the man alone. He was an island unto himself. And Cody was like, no, come. With Randy and with KO, it's different. It's like, no. They were standing like ready to go for war already.
Yeah.
They weren't trying to go it alone. They were ready for war, and you brought them together. I was just like, no, you turning on them, that's what it is.
It's gonna be interesting to see how it plays out. That's for sure. This is not going to be something that happens in the next couple of weeks. It's going to be in a few months. But let them cook.
Yes, I'm just like, it's scary when you think of the pay-per-views or the PLEs that we got coming up, because you're like, we got Bad Blood after Bash in Berlin, and I'm like, the way I see it, WWE is now in a position where the name of a PLE gives you more of an indication of certain things. So like, Hell in the Cell. You know there's going to be a Hell in the Cell match. But when this is called Bad Blood, and you're like, ooh, who are you going to have bad blood with? Who's going to have bad blood with who? And then you're going to play that vignette. You're going to play that promo package. And I'm going to see the bad blood building between these two people, and I'm like, oh, I'm ready.
Well, I mean, in terms of bad blood, what you could have is something where obviously you need the bloodline involved, because it's going to lead into Survivor Series. So whether you have something like Roman versus Jacob Fatu at Bad Blood, and then obviously everybody gets involved. You could have then Jimmy return and come down, and then it'll build into Survivor Series at that point. But in terms of if we can get that working between Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton, and KO, whoever turns on who, that could be a hell of a triple threat at Survivor Series.
That would be lovely.
So, yeah. All right. We had a little backstage segment, or kind of video with Santos Escobar. I thought it was really nice. It was really nicely produced. Sitting around the dinner, did feel very cartel about their power and how they're going to be respected within the business. And I'm becoming a little bit of a fan of Escobar. Then we had LA Knight come out, and he just cut his promo from the entrance. It was short, sweet, basic. It was just to get him out there in front of the fans, in front of that live crowd, get that pop, and that's it. So anything to write home about those two segments?
I think there needs to, I know the draft has only just kind of happened, but I feel that there needs to be a bit of a shake up, because right now you have one of your most popular faces in LA Knight not really having the plethora of opponents that he should have. Like, yes, we discussed at length about, Carmelo Hayes and Andrade, but who does he face after that?
Yeah,
because I'm like, you look at that the only way I see that like carrying on to give a good couple of title defenses is he beats Escobar. Maybe he faces Andrade or Carmelo next. Somebody interferes in that match. It's a no contest, and then we go for like a triple threat or a fatal 4-way, and all of them are in it. And then you at least give him like, okay, he's got two title defenses, 3 title defenses, and then you have that massive blowout match.
Yeah. Actually, that'd be a really nice build if they could do something at Bad Blood and then have like a fatal 4-way at Survivor Series. That could work really good, because then you could actually take the title off of him without him losing. Have somebody else pin, like Andrade pinning Hayes or vice versa or something like that. But LA Knight also needs somebody who's just got the good promo skills. You know, so Logan Paul that
Yes,
really
that's
worked
the
with because they could do the videos, backstage segments. He needs someone who's just as strong on the mic to be able to play off against in the ring. So
Yeah.
And then we had, which this was actually our main event of the evening before we had our segment at the end. We had the Street Profits versus DIY WWE Tag Team Title #1 Contenders match. And this was a hell of a match. I did not see this coming. And again, this is a PLE worthy match. And I was really impressed with these two performances. There were a lot of near falls, lots of brilliant moves, lots of great tag team moves, double moves. And it all came to a head. And I thought DIY were actually going to come out on top of this, but that wasn't the way it came. Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins overcame DIY with a super blockbuster to become the #1 contenders to face the Bloodline. So, Neil, going into this, who did you think was going to win going into this, and how did the match pan out for you?
I'll be honest, 9 times out of 10, unless they're facing the newly crowned champions or like the Bloodline, I'm always gonna go with Street Profits.
Okay.
Because admittedly, I missed DIY's NXT days. Like the majority of times I saw them, they were fighting against each other.
Yeah.
Right. But I saw a lot of Street Profits in NXT, and they were just cold. And then seeing them now on Raw and now on SmackDown, and I'm like, it's crazy how good. It's like everyone knows how good Montez Ford is.
Yes.
But it's crazy to think he's that good. But when he's just in tandem with Angelo Dawkins, it looks that much better.
Yes.
Right? It's like, you were saying that one of your criticisms of Jey Uso is that he's only got like 5 moves.
Yes.
Right? But when you see him in a tag match, those 5 moves are amazing.
Yeah, because it just
those
works.
5 moves. Yeah, it's those 5 moves intercut with he's not in the ring. Jimmy's in the ring. And Jimmy's, even though they're twins, Jimmy's a bit more of the powerhouse of the two. And it's like the same thing with Dawkins and Ford. Dawkins is the powerhouse. He's the former football player who can just slam into you and tackle you good and proper.
Yes.
And then you're like, tag. And then you're just like, Montez Ford is going to do a double backflip from this corner of the ring. He's going to land on his feet outside the ring on the other corner, and his opponent is just going to be on the floor.
Actually announced for next week on SmackDown. It is going to be the Bloodline versus the Street Profits for the WWE Tag Team Championship. So looking forward to that next week.
Yeah.
Then we had our final segment of the evening, which was the Bloodline and Roman Reigns. Sikoa and Tama made their way down to the ring for the final segment of the night. The self-appointed head of the table called out Reigns to try and take the Ulafala from him. Roman's made his way out to the ring, took down Sikoa and Tama by himself. He reclaimed his Ulafala, put that around his neck, thought he was in paradise, but Jacob Fatu, boot and all, came in with a super kick out of nowhere. And, that led to a vicious attack from the Bloodline against Roman Reigns. They put him through the announcers table. And the show finished with Solo and the Bloodline standing tall over their cousin, basically. So really good segment. It was the way it had to go after the fact that Roman's been strong after SummerSlam and then the SmackDown afterwards. And I did like... we talked about how the fact that Roman is like the biggest face in wrestling right now. It's only because of the work that Solo Sikoa has done that's put him into that position. Do you know what I mean? The way that he's constructed and, carried this and become that villain has been fantastic. And I like the fact that they're trying to make him seem less afraid right now. He's like, come on, Roman, bring it on. And he is trying to go a little bit toe to toe with him, but then he gets overwhelmed because of the power and the strength, and then he gets the assists. But what did you think of the segment? We spoke about, obviously, Jacob Fatu, it was supposed to be an injury to keep him away from Roman. But the fact that he did return with a boot this week, like you said, it looks like it is potentially a genuine injury.
Yeah, it looks from one of the angles.
But he doesn't care. He was running on that boot and doing all the things. I mean, he didn't do the splash, which he would normally do, but he was still a powerhouse and doing his thing. So, yeah, what did you think of the segment?
I loved it. I think, you know what it is? Sometimes your hero is only as good as your villain.
Absolutely.
But sometimes it works in the opposite direction. Your villain's only as good as the hero. And when you think of the criticisms that Solo had to deal with when like Roman wasn't there, and then it's like you had crowds upon crowds upon crowds for at least months chanting, "We want Roman, we want Roman," and then they didn't get Roman, and all they got was Solo, and it made them resent Solo. But there was a lot of unfair criticism levied at him, and fair credit to him, like he rode that wave, right?
Yeah.
And what it is Solo went from the enforcer of the bloodline to being the de facto tribal chief to basically being like the mob leader. And now he's like, the best way I can describe it, he went from being for the film reference folks, he went from being like Fredo Corleone to being Michael Corleone.
Yeah.
Because he went from being not a pussy, right?
Yeah.
But he went from being like, oh, you're just not that guy. You're not the tribal chief. You're not him. To now being like, I'm better than him. I'm smarter than him. I know he can do A, B, and C, but guess what? He don't know about X, Y, and Z yet.
Yeah.
And it's things like, because that whole thing of like, if you want it, come and take it, right? He's like, I'm leveraging this one thing that you want. And if you get this one thing, you become the leader. I will bow down to you if you can take it. But it's if you can take it. Roman is coming down and he seems like he can easily take out Tama Tonga. He can easily take out Tongaloa. So it's like, okay. And it's like Jacob Fatu is the issue. Jacob, he's the new enforcer and he's the issue because Roman can take out all the other three single-handedly. So it's like, okay, you can take out these three single-handedly. The wild card is the Samoan werewolf. So it's like, okay, cool. That's just an interesting build. And somebody put it out on social media and said, can we just take a moment to celebrate the biggest star in all of wrestling selling for a guy who hasn't been in the company 3 months?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Right? He ain't been in the WWE 3 months. And Roman was selling for him like he got railroaded by the Undertaker.
Yeah, it's true.
It's
true. It probably helps that they're all family, but yeah.
Yeah, it does. But it's just like the look
in
at
terms
his
of
face,
status. But yeah, exactly. It's and I think what they've done with Jacob Fatu, and he's fantastic, but he's delivered himself. He's made himself a presence. He's made himself a problem. He's made himself. He's one of the best recruits WWE've had a long time, I think. In terms of, new to the business. He's fantastic. So that was the end of SmackDown. So it was announced on SmackDown for next week. We're going to have a 6-woman tag match. Naomi, Bianca Belair, and Jade Cargill versus Alba Fire, Isla Dawn, and Blair Davenport. Keep that going. It kind of keeps them in the title picture. And then we have the United States Championship match, LA Knight versus Santos Escobar next week as well. So we've got another championship match. And as we said, we've already got the WWE Tag Team Championship match. So, should be a big SmackDown next week. Right, let us move over to Monday Night Raw. So on this week's show, we opened with Randy Orton and the Ring General Gunther again. We had, what I like about it, Randy Orton came out for his theme song again, and since Backlash every crowd now really sings his song, and he loves it and he really appreciates it. He actually made a reference which I was like, does he mean this what I think he is? Because it maybe comes across a little racist, but he was like, South Florida, you're sounding very froggy tonight. And I thought he was mentioning like frogs is in the French because of backlash.
No.
I was like, is that what that means?
No. I think South Florida's university team is the Frogs.
Oh, okay. Like, that might be it. That might make more sense.
One of their sports teams are the Frogs. I'm sure of it.
I hope so. That would be better.
Yeah, I'm sure of it. I've seen like the mascot. It's like a frog wearing an orange sweater. So
right.
like...
Okay. All right. Well, that's okay then. So as long as he wasn't taking the piss there, right? But then he was he came out to talk about Gunther and the fact that he'd spoken about his father and grandfather, and that Gunther has made it personal. And Gunther came out and he got some real strong boos from this crowd. They were really against him. He's doing some fabulous work and it is paying off. And similar fashion, each time he tried to talk, they tried to boo him out. He's calling out the fans as well. He's doing his crowd work as well, which is really good. But he said that, and Randy was just laughing as well. He's really appreciated the crowd and the interaction. But he also said that Randy had made it personal and he is going to expose Randy for what he is with the RKO, that Randy is a lucky one-trick pony. And then we had Ludwig Kaiser come out and attack Randy from behind. It looked like Randy Orton was going to fight them off at first, but then 2-on-1 was too much for Randy. And then that set up a match for later in the night where we had Randy Orton versus Ludwig Kaiser. What do you think of this rivalry going so far? Because, like I say, it was starting out just to be, a technical wrestler versus Randy Orton, who's also a very good technical wrestler, and now they're making it personal. So I like the build for this. It's really strong. What are your thoughts?
I like it because it's to me, it's very difficult to build a rivalry out of nowhere to just be like, you're the number one contender and I don't like you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But to have it, and the thing is, because Gunther is on this pathway where every time he captures gold, he just holds it.
Yes.
And I'm like, NXT UK champion, NXT UK champion, and he just held it like it was, he held it to the point that people forgot that, he was the champion.
That
he
belt
was just
existed, yeah.
And then he's, now the longest reigning Intercontinental Championship. And when you think about that, the people who held it for like the longest, you're talking about the Honky Tonk Man, you're talking about the Miz, and now it's Gunther, and it's like, the legacy of people who had that title, and he is the longest reigning champion. Now he's got the world champion, and it's like, if this was 6 months into his reign, then I would be like, Randy might do the business. Randy might get title number 15. As his first opponent, I'm just like, Randy, no, right? I was like, we ain't had enough days as Gunther as champion for you to take it. Gunther's in he's in his Freezer era, and Randy Orton's just feeling like Vegeta. It's like, it's not gonna go down the way you think. You're gonna get hurt.
Yeah, I mean, this is why I said I'd actually have Gunther lose his first match, because he's gotten too cocky. He is slipping. He's taking for granted everything that's coming for him, and then just have a rematch, and then him win it back and own it, and then hold on to it. But that's just me.
Gunther, who is in 10 years, they'll be calling Gunther all-time great. I mean, look, they might call him, like, let's face it, right? Next week, Sunday, they might probably be calling him all-time great after he has his match with Randy. Right?
Yeah, no, I get where you're going.
He is just phenomenal in what he does. But to have him tell 15-time world champion Randy Orton, this man, you think of the people he has beaten. You think he has won the Royal Rumble. The things that he has done, and you're going to say to this guy, you are a talented underachiever.
Yeah.
Like, this guy, one trick pony. I was like, you do realize that when you look at the annuals of greatest champions ever, it goes Ric Flair, John Cena, tied.
Mm-hmm.
Then it goes Randy Orton.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
He is literally second place, right? Because there are two people joint at first. He is the second most title winning guy. And you're a underachiever.
Yeah.
I'm like, that is crazy. When you think his family lineage, his granddad, he's got the same family lineage as The Rock. He's a third generation superstar. And you're like, underachiever.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see if they could revisit this feud later. So they say Gunther does win. I would like to see a situation where Randy gets it back, because then he'd be a 15-time champion. And then he has to face John Cena for John Cena to claim the all-time record at 17 to be Randy Orton. That'd be something. But hey.
Yeah. But that's the thing is, I need...
Yeah, what do you need?
I need Randy Orton to win this year's Royal Rumble and face Gunther at WrestleMania and then win that title.
Oh, okay.
Like, as much as, you know, there are people who are probably way more deserving, it wouldn't surprise me if like Roman Reigns won the Royal Rumble or something. But I need it to be Randy Orton. I know it's like he's won the Rumble twice before, and you know, all of that good stuff, and you could give it to more deserving people. You know, it wouldn't if Damien Priest or if CM Punk won the Royal Rumble. Cool, it's all right, I understand. But I need Randy Orton in a title match at WrestleMania, and the only person I want him to face is Gunther. Like, have him face Cody Rhodes somewhere before then and not win. I need that match. I need that rematch. I need him. You how you want it? I want the reverse. I want Gunther to win and then not have to see Randy again. And then WrestleMania comes and then have Gunther being like, the last time I beat you.
Yeah, you were my first challenge, and I came through you. Yeah.
And I overcame you because you are an underachiever and you have not grown. You haven't done anything different.
Yeah.
And then 600
and I've held this title for
later,
a year. And then, exactly.
And having said 600 RKOs later, he's just like, 1, 2, 3, I hear voices. And it's like,
All right. Okay, let's move on. We had Sheamus versus Pete, Don't Call Me Butch Dunne, the Bruiserweight. Pete Dunne obviously attacked Sheamus last week with a shillelagh. So Sheamus was fighting sort of like with an injured hand. It was an entertaining match. You know, Sheamus is putting in some great work in this latter part of his career, I have to say. But I also thought Pete Dunne came out of this match looking really strong and really good. It was a really nice finish to the match as well. So Dunne put Sheamus's injured hand through the middle turnbuckle pad, was attacking it. And then, but Sheamus broke free, just pulling the pad off and broke kicking Dunne for the 1, 2, 3. It was an entertaining match. I enjoyed it. Thoughts?
It's going to sound bad. I don't mean it to sound as bad as it's going to. I did not care for the match until the last segment, until his hand was in there and ripped it out and just that bro kick.
Yes.
Just like, because I was watching it and I was like, the two of you are good competitors. So anything you do is really and truly going to be good. You're going to have a very serviceable match that is going to be entertaining, and I'm going to see it and I'm like, yeah, cool. It was great. It's all right. Nothing is blowing me out of the water. It's just all right. And then that last moment when he just ripped his hand out of that turnbuckle, I was like, oh, bang.
Yeah.
I was just like, okay, that's how you finish a match.
Back on side. Yeah. We had a backstage segment with the New Day, and Xavier was explaining to Kofi that he wasn't happy about how he's bringing Odyssey Jones into replacing Big E. He's like, he's not replacing him, but he's just trying to bring Odyssey up because they're veterans and give him a chance. It's all feeding in, and it leads into the match later on in the day. We had American Made backstage segment. Ivy Nile, the Pitbull, she officially joins the faction, and they stay they're not done with Wyatt 6 and How We Made American Made. That was some real nice cheese. I actually forgot, because we've been talking about American Made and it wasn't like the best name. I forgot how much Hogan was referred to as American Made. He used to wear the American made t-shirts and stuff like that. And I was just like, oh yeah, you know, so it's obviously still got the copyright on that. I don't know. But yeah, it's doing it for them. I actually do like the logo.
Copyright lasts for a long time. Yes. Yeah, I mean, that's the only thing I like about the American made is their logo.
Yeah, with the new shirts, that look cool, I have to say. That works for me. But then we have Maxine Dupree versus Ivy Nile. Dupree, damn, she came out of the blocks and she looked good. She even hit like a perfect plex. Yeah, the drop kick, the perfect plex outside of the ring. She threw Ivy over the announcer's table. She was looking good. And but then Ivy started her comeback. But as she does, the lights go out and the Wyatt Six appear. Abby the Witch, Nikki Cross, she took out Ivy Nile. The Wyatt Six then starts attacking American Made. And then Uncle Howdy then hits Chad Gable with a Sister Abigail in the middle of the ring. Really nice segment. I thought it was a little too dark. It wasn't that easy to see what's going on. I don't know how the crowd felt about it whilst they were there, but it wasn't that easy to see the action going on in the ring. But yeah, it was a decent segment and continues that feud.
I mean, I can say from experience, it's definitively better lit when you're in the arena watching it, right? It's a lot darker on TV than it is actually there. Because I was like, you know,
who's in the ring?
Yeah, these do this shit, you know, right? But also, I think it's the way that the cameramen are positioning themselves to hide, like Uncle Howdy getting in the ring, or to hide, you know, Abby the Witch from wherever. But it's so difficult because Alpha Academy versus American Made could be a rivalry, a feud all by itself.
Yes.
But then you just add the Wyatt Six, who are just pounding Chad Gable and anyone he's cool with. And it's just like, yeah.
And that led on to the announcement that Uncle Howdy will be making his first in-ring debut next week versus Chad Gable in a one-on-one on Raw. So we're really interested to see that match. Looking forward to that. Obviously, everyone else is going to get involved, but it'll be good to see. The Terror Twins, which they continue to call these two for whatever reason. You know, I don't know. I just don't know. But anyway, the Terror Twins, they cut a video backstage. Liv Morgan and Dominic Mysterio, they cut one as well, obviously hyping their tag match up for Bash in Berlin. And then Dom challenged Damien Priest to a one-on-one match later that night. Obviously, which looked like suicide, but, you know, they had another backstage room later where Priest is like, obviously, I know it's a trap. I kind of know what to expect. But, yeah, just some nice promos and yeah, decent build-up. Nothing much home to write about there. Then we had a segment, CM Punk and Drew McIntyre. So CM Punk came out, spoke about the impact the fans had had on him and Fanatics Fest, that he was there. And he's he referred to him as the Taylor Swift for men, which I thought was brilliant. Actually, really made me laugh. And it's like, you know what? You're probably not wrong, because the fans go absolutely nuts for him. And but he had an announcement to make, and that he said at Bash in Berlin, it's going to be CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre in a strap match. So if you're not familiar with what a strap match is, he did go on to elaborate, but Punk and McIntyre will be tethered together at the wrists via this leather strap, and in order to win the match, you have to basically drag your opponent behind you and hit the turnbuckle on each of the four corners of the ring before you can be declared the winner. But he said he doesn't want to just win, he wants to whip that bitch and leave him scarred. Drew came out and he tried to persuade Punk to, you know, get rid of the strap that he was holding. CM Punk offered a return for the bracelet. He's like, nah, it's all right, I'll keep these, and accepted the match. How are you liking this feud building? And were you surprised by this match stipulation? This came out of the blue for me. I mean, it made sense because of last week, because of the belt action. And then obviously, as soon as CM Punk came down to the ring with that around his neck, you could see where it's going. But yeah, what are your thoughts?
I think on the surface, it's a bit of a weird one, because as neither man is running from the other, it's a thing of, well, it's like
you normally have to keep them together to fight. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, there's no more running. I'm going to attach you to me, so there's nowhere to go.
Yeah,
but they want to get their hands on each other.
Exactly, they want to get each other. And I think the only thing that I'm envisioning is, because they'll be strapped together, that at some point in the match, maybe like Drew will be wearing the bracelet on the hand that's got the strap.
Right.
And then that will cause that will screw with Punk, like every time, like instead of trying to just win the match, he's trying to get the bracelet.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the screw up for him. But also, I think it works nicely as it gives them another match to have that can probably tie it up 1-1.
Yeah, this has to be Punk's win. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you can go into like Bad Blood, where it's the rubber match to end the feud.
Yeah, and then a cell or something. Mm.
Yeah. So it's like I can see it, and I was like, it gives you a stay of execution because wherever the next match is, probably a Hell in the Cell.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. We'll give them a Hell in the Cell match. If it's not a Bad Blood, it'll be a Hell in the Cell.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll be like, okay, cool. Now you're going to have that big blowout match.
Yeah. That's a really good point you make. I like the fact that Punk has chosen that match to keep McIntyre near so he can get that bracelet.
Yeah.
I think that's a really, really good shout. That really works well. It must be a really good bracelet, the fact that it hasn't broken yet. So fair play to whoever made that. It's probably actually the 5th one they've gone through. Probably, do you know what I mean? But anyway, it looks good. I mean, that would be the thing though as well. I would have, if Punk was about to get it and Drew just snapped the bracelet and it shattered to pieces, that would just drive Punk over the edge, and I would love to see that.
See now imagine that's the end of the match. In fact, even though it's better if Punk wins this match because you've got it 1-1.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine they're going at it for the bracelet. It snaps.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's snapped, Punk is distracted. He's looking at the pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Claymore, 1, 2, 3, match done. Bracelet done. And then Punk snaps, and him snapping is what leads to the Hell in the Cell match, and that's where Punk wins definitively, probably stands at the top of the cage, hands raised like and that's how you kind of end that feud.
Yeah. All right. Then we had the New Day and Odyssey Jones versus the Final Testament. This all built to the fact that Kofi didn't make the hot tag to Woods, and it's just building that tension between the two. Odyssey eventually picked up the win for the team. Woods again, not with the same energy, but yeah, it's just feeding into that feud, and it's just a matter of when now. That's all it is.
Do you know what it was? For me, it was
the camera angle that was great
in the dressing room.
Yeah,
when it was like Kofi didn't even really acknowledge what Woods said when he was like, "Oh, I'm not trying to replace E. E is replaceable. We're family. Like we're not gonna do that. Like this. We're not breaking up. I'm not trying to replace nobody. We're good." And then if you just listen closely, Woods is like, "Okay, I'm gonna sort it out. I'm the problem."
Yeah.
And I was just like, "What? Don't do this."
Then we had The Miz versus Bronson Reed in a no DQ match because The Miz likes pain, I guess.
WWE, stop trying to hurt The Miz.
Yeah. And it did not end well for The Miz. Well, Bronson Reed picked up the win, and the pops that Bronson Reed is getting now when he goes to those tsunamis is, the crowd are like, yeah, we want it. We want to see the carnage. They love that. But he went to completely take The Miz out after the match with a second tsunami. Then we had an appearance from one big son of a bitch. Braun Strowman came down, and we are going to get some heavy meat sweat fighting between these two.
Big meaty men slapping meat.
Yeah, that's it. It should be a good feud, right?
The thing is, what really disappoints me is that Braun Strowman, whenever they've given him like a big monster to go up against, it's never panned out the way it should. The closest we got to that was him versus Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
Right? Like, him It's just like you need him. He is that monster, but he needs a good monster to feed off. And I think finally we might have one in Bronson Reed.
I think my anticipation was that potentially Bronson Reed would go after the Intercontinental Championship. However, we have a backstage segment with Bron Breakker, and he reveals that a tournament's going to start next week to determine the number one contender for the Intercontinental Championship. So we have no idea who's going to be in this tournament yet. I would expect Bronson Reed to be a part of it, but we don't know. And but Breakker feels that Adam Pearce is slowing him down, because he's doing this number one contender. He's not just giving him his next opponent. So it'll be interesting to see when we actually see Bron defend that championship. Obviously, he's not going to do it at Bash at Berlin. They've got enough matches, but it'll be at the next pay-per-view. But
It'd be bad blood.
Yeah, it'd be bad blood. So, but we want to see more of him, right? Because this guy's a beast. We want to see him wrestle. So hopefully he's not going to be not competing for a little while whilst we have this tournament, because you can imagine there's dragging this number one contender championship tournament out for 2 or 3 weeks, right? Well,
that's the thing. I imagine it'll be 8 competitors, 8 down to 4 one week, 4 down to 2 next week, and then final. Just in time for Bad Blood.
Yeah, give it a couple of week build up between him and that one person. Yeah.
But it's like I think whilst it's like, yes, we want to see Bronson Reed, we want to see Bron Breakker.
There's a lot of Bron action going on at the moment.
Yeah, there's like 3 Brons. There's Bron Breakker, Bronson Reed, and Braun Strowman. And I was like, you got 3 brands. You could have split them up. Right? But it's like, when I think about it, I feel like, as much as you want to see Bron Breakker, like every week, just, your sports commentary camera angle, bird's eye view, as he rips around the ring and just spears the guts out of somebody. I think holding him back is actually a good thing, because on one hand, you're holding him back, so you're like, oh, who's going to be, who's his next opponent? And you just like, to quote Pulp Fiction, it's dangerous to have a race car in the red, right? And just having him just getting agitated and fidgety whilst he's waiting for his next opponent. And then you can have it like it would not, what would be a brilliant way to deal with this? Have Braun Strowman, Bron Breakker, the finalists for the Intercontinental Championship, have the match come out as like a double count out, no contest, have Bron Breakker come out and be like, this is bullshit, spear the hell out of both of them, and then Adam Pearce is like, you want meat? Here's your meat. You got both of them in the triple threat match, and then you have that, because just picture it with me. And for those who are only listening to this, just listen to my voice and hear these words. PLE match, triple threat, Bron Breakker, Braun Strowman, Bronson Reed. Braun Strowman waves his finger in the air. He's going to go for that choo-choo train run around where he's just clobbering everyone. The first person he gets to, Bron Breakker, clobbers him, goes through him, runs all the way to the other side of the ring, clobbers through Bronson Reed, decides, I'm going to do it again. And he goes around again. But this time, what he doesn't realize is that Bron Breakker is on his feet, has dusted his toes back, and is sprinting in the opposite direction. And then they collide at full speed, spear versus shoulder tackle. And you just see Braun Strowman lose a couple letters out of his name because the spears just dealt with him.
Knocks the beard off his face.
Yeah. And then you have that from that moment on, Bron Breakker is the same level as Gunther.
Yeah.
Because you're just like, no one can beat him, right? Exactly. No one can legitimately beat him because he's just the monster of all monsters, and he's the smallest monster.
Yeah. What I would probably do, how I'd book it, is I'd have Bronson Reed versus Braun Strowman, but not in the final. I'd have them meet earlier on, and it end up in like a DQ. And basically they both end up getting like turfed out of the tournament. Somebody else gets a bye. It could even be the first round. And then you go through this number one contender tournament, to give you a number one contender. Then the next match hits him with like 2 spears, done. It's over in a minute. So you go through all this build up to find out your number one contender, who's going to be the best of the best to say, just finishes him. He's been waiting for 3 weeks to hit someone, and then someone's put in front of him, straight through. Right, now who's next?
See, now, yeah, that could happen. I think what the problem is that if that happens, the person who I'd like, if not Strowman and Reed, the person who I'd love to be like the finalist, I don't want it to be them.
No, exactly. It can't be them.
Yeah,
no.
I don't want it to
go
be
off and
Ilya.
have their own feud and then come back later. Yeah,
because I'm like Ilya Dragunov. They need to put the respect on that man's name because he is so good. But at the same time, by pulling off that spear off the freaking apron where he speared him into the apron, like, you can't pull that off twice. And I'm like, how do you top that as this is going to end that match?
Yeah. I would have it as Sheamus potentially, because then he can go like, I want to be Grand Slam champion. And then Braun's like, nah, ain't your time, fella. and just goes through Sheamus because he's been fighting every week on this build up, and he ends up going into this match with Braun like not 100%. And but then he can have a rematch with him later down the line, and maybe he is the one to take it off him and become that Grand Slam champion before he retires. So who knows? Yeah,
I mean, I can imagine. I wouldn't mind Braun, Breaker versus Sheamus at WrestleMania. Give him a nice send off.
Yeah, could have a banger. Okay, then we have Dominic Mysterio versus Damien Priest. This was supposed to be no outside interference. Priest was going to come alone. Dom was going to come alone. But obviously, Priest was attacked even before the bell rang, right? So he was...
the bell hadn't rang. He was just like walking, and he just turned around and
turned around. He knew it was a trap. He beat the shit out of the Judgment Day, absolutely. And then we had Rhea Ripley come out, and the Terror Twins take out Dom. She gave the headbutt. Priest puts on what did he do? Was it a choke slam or something?
Yeah, South of Heaven.
Yeah, South Heaven. And he says to Rhea, she goes outside. She's going to take the announcer's table top off to put Dom through the table. And then Liv comes to the rescue and saves her daddy, Dom. And then it's about basically the Terror Twins getting brutalized by the Judgment Day. I thought it was really good. We had the Judgment Day 4-on-1 on Damien Priest. They kind of did a little bit what the Bloodline did in terms of making him watch Rhea Ripley get attacked by Liv. And then we had Liv hit her finisher on Rhea in the ring and just left the twins in the ring at the end. And that's how it should have been. That is it. Because at the end of the day, it is like 5-on-2. So the math needs to start mathing. But yeah, it was a good segment and I enjoyed it. And it was the right call because obviously they stood tall last week. So the Terror Twins had to be put in their place. Your thoughts on that segment?
I liked it. I think the thing I liked the most about it was, I think the problem when you have like a 2-gender
the mixed
stables, mixed stables, where you've got like, here's this stable and they've got one girl, and here's this stable and they've got one girl, and obviously the 2 girls have to go at it with each other. It's the era we live in. But it's, if you play it right, you can still make it credible. And it's like, okay, everybody knows Rhea Ripley is infinitely stronger than Liv Morgan. But Liv Morgan seems to be more conniving. And the fact that she's 100%. Got back up in the way of having the Judgment there, and she can just be like, okay, if you guys can, you don't have to, it's like, okay, Rhea's mainly going to be focusing her attention on Dom, which gives me the opportunity to sneak attack her. And then if you guys deal with Damien, then I can deal with Rhea because she's already going to be focused
distracted
elsewhere. And it's just like, play it that funky tune again.
Yeah.
And it's 100%. Like, I like the fact. And seeing, I don't like calling them the Terror Twins, but seeing the Terror Twins like in this position where now the realization has hit them, as strong as you are, the numbers game is the numbers game.
Yeah, it's not 2-on-2. Exactly.
Yeah, it's like you kind of wait, and it's like, on one hand, I feel like if Edge wasn't in AEW, then maybe
could have been a nice return.
he might just, that would be a lovely return. But at the same time, I'm just like, there's a tease at someone being there to assist them already. Because
I'll pick that up.
The way I keep seeing this back and forth on socials between Jey Uso and Rhea Ripley.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Like when she had her, there's an image of her like that, and she's got the beads around her wrist, and you just, and she says, yeet.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like,
yeah, because he's got his beef with the Judgment Days. There's no reason why he wouldn't. But that leads on to
you know what the perfect.
Go on.
Well, I was gonna say because the perfect scenario for me, Liv has been presented as being somewhat unstable.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, imagine they say, it's the Terror Twins and Jey Uso, and Jey Uso is getting kind of close with Rhea Ripley, and then you have Dominic getting jealous.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then Dom's jealous, and then he's like getting really annoyed, and it's clear he's jealous. And then you have Liv being jealous of the fact that Dom is jealous, and he's just like, and it's like it motivates both Dom and Liv to go after Jey and Rhea, and then it leads to like the breakup of Dom and Liv. It's just like you can cause some wonderful daytime drama havoc in these WWE rings.
Relationships, they are
some Sunset Beach, some Melrose Place. You can cause some good havoc in this stuff.
Absolutely. I mean, it's right, because we had a backstage segment with Jey Uso as well, didn't we? And because we haven't actually seen him wrestle for quite a while now.
He's 3 weeks.
He's just been like the hype man for a while. And but he mentioned about going after singles titles again, didn't he?
Because he wanted to go after the tag.
Yeah, with Sami Zayn, and that's not happening. So, but
that's the thing.
Would it be a bad shout? Would it be a bad shout him joining up with Priest and Rhea, and him and Priest going after the tag championships from Judgment Day?
Yeah, because that's the thing is, I mean, imagine how that. Imagine. I'm seeing these things in my head. Imagine you have Damien Priest, Jey Uso face off against Finn and JD, win the tag titles. Rhea's there. Rhea just gives a big old hug to Jey, and you just see Dom's eyes just go.
Yeah.
And he's giving that Kill Bill death stare.
Yeah.
When the screen goes red, he's just giving him that death stare.
Yeah. Nice. Okay, so then we had a triple threat tag team match at the women's tag team championship. We had Damage Control versus Pure Fusion Collective, PFC, not to be confused with KFC, as Pat McAfee said. And we had Alba Fire and Isla Dawn. It was a decent match, but what I like about the finish is the champions seem to find a way, but it doesn't feel cheap like you do get with some heel teams. They are quite strong in the finish to hang on to the belt. So I do quite like that. But again, it's just quite messy, this women's division with the tag team championships at the moment, because now they're going to go and face Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair and stuff on the SmackDown. And the attention just seems really split at the moment. So it's hard to see where they plan on going with this. But Pat McAfee, he announced that he's leaving Raw for a while, for a few months, because the football season's starting. But he will be back for the Netflix launch when WWE moves over to Netflix in January. What are your thoughts on McAfee as a co-commentator? Where's he rank for you?
I'm going to sound very old. I am. But I grew up with the ultimate teams, the ultimate commentary teams. I had Jim Ross and Jerry the King Lawler. I had Jim Ross and Paul Heyman.
Yes.
I've had the dream team, the Hall of Fame commentary team. I've run the gauntlet, right? I remember when Michael Cole just did backstage work when he was there, just doing like not even commentary, just interviewing people, right? I remember The Rock being some just heartless to him. But Michael Cole, people give Michael Cole some stick, but Michael Cole and Pat McAfee together have been a dream team.
They've been gold. Absolutely.
They have been gold. To know that they're kind of separating, I guess as long as the two of them come back together.
Yeah. I think that's what's going to happen.
Launch is the two of them together, then I'm good.
Yeah, well, in September, Michael Cole's moving over to SmackDown. And they got this new guy joining for the Raw. But I think they are doing that to, again, build the relationships, build the different kind of partnerships. But I'd expect, the dynamics. I'd expect Cole to be back with McAfee on the first show of Raw when it goes onto Netflix. Yeah. I think that has to be done. You know, I for me, as much as I grew up on JR and he is the voice of a lot of my youth, probably more of my life, it has been Michael Cole now. He's been doing this a hell of a long time. And a lot of modern memories, it's Cole's voice giving that commentary. Do you know what I mean? And I remember JR for a lot of, Austin and The Rock and stuff like that. And, but now it's just like, I actually personally think Cole's overtaken JR now as the GOAT, in my opinion.
I don't know if I can agree with that, because I'm like, when I think of like my ultimate memories of wrestling, like I remember Bobby the Brain Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon. Right? I remember, so I'm like, and so it's depending on the era, basically, depending on the clarity of the TV screen, will tell me the voices I expect to hear.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's either Bobby the Brain and Gorilla Monsoon, or it's, JR and the King, or it's Michael Cole and someone.
Yeah, I mean, JR and the King, it was the Attitude Era, right? That's the voice of the Attitude Era.
And I think that but when I think of what you're saying about absolute classic moments, like when I'm thinking about it now, and two moments stand out for me. Seth Rollins, Heist of the Century.
Yes.
And A Miracle on Bourbon Street. And those two moments that both of them WrestleMania moments.
Yeah. Even the last WrestleMania finish the story on the 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I suppose I would say like JR is kind of the voice of WWF for me, where Cole is like the voice of WWE.
Yeah,
if you look at it, those two different brands. Exactly. Two different parts of our life journey. Yeah. All right. Okay, let's move on. So then we had Randy Orton versus Ludwig Kaiser. Kaiser held his own against Randy. There was a good match. He was very methodical, working the knee, which was really good because obviously Orton's a lot about the power and the quickness now. But Orton turned it around. He slammed on that announcer's table about 4 times. We had a superplex by Orton, vintage Orton DDT, and an RKO to finish it. Went through his moveset. It was great. And then we had Orton Gunther fighting it out after the match to close the show. So again, really nice build to the feud. It'll be interesting to see if Ludwig has any involvement in their title match and the outcome there. I hope we don't, because I don't think we need it between those two. But yeah, I thought it was a really good match.
Yeah, I agree. It absolutely was a good match. I think we said earlier about like thinking about who's going to be in this Intercontinental, who's going to be in this tournament. And I'm like, Ludwig's going to be in this tournament.
Yeah, has to be.
Right? Unless he gets hurt, he's going to be in this tournament. So it's, it's just seeing, again, the problem is, I think maybe the problem is because Imperium really aren't a thing. It's just, it's Ludwig and it's Gunther. Without the third guy, I'm sorry, forgive me, I can't remember his name.
Oh, he's been getting some new vignettes, hasn't he, on SmackDown? Like he's like driving Porsches and shit. And they're really trying to build him up again. Basically,
Imperium should be tag team champions with Gunther as the world champion, all the gold, the prestige of wrestling. That should be a thing. And the fact that it's not, and it's not going to be a thing because they kicked him out of the group, is But
I'd love to see Gunther as double champion. He could hold the tag team championship and the world championship. Why the hell not?
That's true.
That could be cool. So next week on Raw, it was confirmed that we have Braun Strowman versus Big Bronson Reed. It'll be interesting whether they include the number one contenders match in that, but it's not at the moment. But the Intercontinental Championship number one contenders tournament will launch next week. And then we have Uncle Howdy versus Chad Gable. So that was the end of Raw. Any final thoughts on Raw this week?
Just keep doing what you're doing, but please, Xavier, don't do it.
Do it. Right, well, thank you very much for being here, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for watching us on Bitching About Wrestling. Neil, thank you for joining me. It's been a pleasure as always. For those of you watching on YouTube, thank you. For those of you watching, please make sure you hit that like and subscribe on our YouTube channel. We'd really appreciate the support. And if you're listening to the audio podcast, make sure you hit that follow and give us that rating. 5 stars would be appreciated on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And that's it from us. So until next time, keep bitching about wrestling. Peace out.
Peace.